John won't be here. No, I talked to him on the phone. Yeah, we still have 4. Okay, everyone, we're gonna call this meeting to order. This is the Monday, April 27th, 2026, Gallatin Municipal Planning Commission meeting. And at this time, we'll call it to order. And Tanner, do you mind giving the invocation?
Sure.
Okay. And then Tiffany, can you do the pledge after that?
Yeah.
All right, everyone rise.
Father God, we thank you for today and for our community, and we just pray that you are with us in all of these decisions that we make, and that we listen to all the words that are said at this meeting and act wisely. In your name we pray.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mary Ann, will you do roll call, please?
Chair Morrell,
Here.
Mr. Hamilton,
Here.
Mr. Pereira, Mayor Brown, Councilman Fan,
Here.
Mr. Strouder, Ms. Reed.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Does the secretary have minutes for approval?
Sorry, I can't get my mic on. But yes, motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on previous minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Next, we'll move to public comment on agenda-related items. Please note that there are various items throughout the agenda that will have their own public hearing, but if there's anyone wishing to speak on agenda-related items at this time, please come forward, state your name and address. Seeing none, yes, ma'am.
Is there voting on ours? Do we need to speak during the hearing?
What item? Okay, there's a public hearing at 6, so I will, at 6, I will call for another public hearing, and you can come forward at that time as well. Anyone else? Okay.
Julie Poole, 1049 North Sugar Tree Lane, Gallatin, Tennessee. I don't know if this is necessarily an agenda-related item, but since there's all this planning, all the construction that's going on in the area and all the new that's coming on, our neighborhood is being very affected by, I guess it's called particle dust, especially from the big station camp new development that they're working on now, and they're not in compliance. And we have to call all the time, and we can't even go outside without a haze of dust on our, sorry, it is just very upsetting. It's in my pool. It's on my furniture. I have a baseball team that comes in practice, and they say it's on their teeth. They can't practice. And I just am very upset with the amount of constructions and everything that gets passed, and then nothing gets regulated. And I know it's a lot that's going on, but my big thing is, there was so much dust, and I sent an email today to the head of the stormwater, because every time I try to call the planning, they didn't do anything, and I finally had to call my county commissioner, who she called, and all of a sudden, they started spraying everywhere, but not every day. Saturday, they were out flying, which is not supposed to go over 15 miles an hour. They're flying up down the hills. Dust is everywhere. Of course, I can't call anybody because it's a Saturday. And my big thing is so much planning and so much construction in my 2-mile radius of my home. There's like 6 developments, and there's like 2 or 3 more fixing to be approved that's going to be going. Can you just imagine? Every morning I wake up, all I hear is beep, beep, beep at 7 o'clock in the morning coming from every direction. And I just want to state that something needs to be done on following through with these companies and making them abide by the regulations or whatever you have to do to keep the dust. And I know it's been very dry, but it's still unacceptable. It's still unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
I'm Melinda McMeans. I live next door to Julie, 1051 North Sugar Tree. And I just wanted to tag on to that. When I was here last time, I talked about the blasting. I filed a complaint with the state. The fire marshal called me back and said that they were within compliance, which is shocking because everything in our house shakes, literally. And this goes on all week. Some are worse than others. I've lived there 36 years. We're near the rock quarry. I know what the blasting is like. This is different. And so every time that there's blasting, we have a black cloud. You can just literally see it. My husband and I were out there and we heard the blast and he said, look, and the black cloud just rolls into our neighborhood and stays. You can't breathe. We go in. Our quality of life is suffering. Who knows about the foundations of our homes? I guess we'll all go out and take pictures. But my concern is, like, I talked to Mr., I think his name was McCabe today from the state, and he said the city regulates, does the air dust, the dust. He said he would send someone out to look to see, if they are in fact spraying. But there's construction going on all over Gallatin. And so we know this is like every neighborhood that's being impacted by this. Who's monitoring those sites? Does anybody go out and check those sites to see if they're spraying, to see if they are within compliance? I don't know. Julie and I have tried to look up rules and regulations. They're not supposed to. The man today told me they cannot have dust off of their property. That's a joke. I mean, 2 days after that one blast a couple of weeks ago, you would pull in our subdivision and it was still looked like a dust storm was occurring. So that's all I really have to say about that. Hopefully when this starts with our subdivision behind us, it won't get worse.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on agenda-related items? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment on agenda-related items, and we will move to the consent agenda. In the consent agenda, we've got 3 items. Item 1 is surety renewals and extensions. Item 2, we've got the bank's Phase 1A, Section 1 final plat. And item 3, we have Caldwell Place Townhomes final plat. Anyone wishing to, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda or have discussion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Second. Any discussion on agenda-related items or our consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Items 1 through 3 are approved. Next, we will move to our regular agenda. This is item number 4, Bowman Massey annexation. Who has this one?
I do.
Thanks, Jillian.
Yes, the owner and applicant request to the Planning Commission recommend approval to the City Council to annex 129 acres with a plan of services. This is located west of Brights Lane and north of Roundtree Drive. This property is along Broadway and is directly adjacent to Brights Lane. This property is contiguous to the current city limits based on when the Gregory property came in a few months back. The applicant is requesting annexation of the old family farm. The survey will be revised along Brights Lane to not include land directly around that in the creek due to the urban growth boundary location. The city cannot annex outside of that area, and so we're ensuring that that's not included in this survey. I believe I received an updated survey just this afternoon, so we'll make sure that is updated for City Council.
Okay.
This item will have a public hearing, and it will go to City Council following your recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks, Jillian. Does engineering have anything to add?
No comments from engineering.
Thank you. At this time, we will open up a public hearing on agenda item number 4.
I'm representing the property, and if there's a question about where the urban growth boundary is, I don't know why it doesn't go up to the road, why it goes to the middle of the creek, because you're not going to develop into the creek, and we own the property on the other side of it. So I'll just say take a look at where the urban growth boundary actually is and where it goes, and it would probably resolve a lot of your issues on that one. But nothing has changed from the last time this came up. So.
Okay. Is there, one second. Were there conditions?
Oh, sorry.
Can I get your name, please?
Question about
Sorry. Roe Massey, still at 365 Woodlands Drive, Gallatin, Tennessee.
Okay, thank you. I guess, so are you representing the applicant as well?
Yes.
Okay, so what we'll do is, if you don't mind sitting down, give everyone else an opportunity if they wish to speak. And then what I'll do is I'll close the public hearing, and then I'll call for the applicant to come up
Okay.
after it. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on agenda item number 4? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and then we'll call for the applicant to come back.
I did get my exercise this morning, but that's going to add to it.
Okay.
I'm still Roe Massey, 365 Woodlands Drive, Gallatin, Tennessee.
Good.
And everything I said before still applies.
Okay. You don't have any other questions for staff? You're in agreement with the one condition that is on the item? Jillian, can you shed any light on exactly what that is? I'm assuming it had something to do with the survey.
It is, it's to
Okay.
update the survey.
Okay. I mean, this is pretty typical. I mean, the city has an urban growth boundary that they can't go outside of, and it normally does not necessarily line up with the actual property, like boundary of the property. In most cases it does, but there are certain circumstances where it doesn't.
Yeah, and the only thing that I have question is, why did the urban growth boundary go to the center of the creek when you've got a defined road that's been there longer than anybody in this room has been alive? And so I'm not questioning how they came up with it. It doesn't meet the smell test to me as to why it did that.
Jillian?
So this is something we researched when you guys first did the petition. Because we knew the urban growth boundary was in that area, but we weren't sure if it went along Brights Lane or if it went along the creek. And the reason we thought it might go along the creek is because on these older maps, it's very unclear. I'm not dealing with like perfect GIS maps. I'm dealing with an image of a map.
Yeah.
You can clearly see in areas, right in that area, it follows the creek
Okay.
instead of the road. Why they did that, I don't know.
Okay.
That's not a recent thing that we've done. So in order to make sure we aren't doing something that could jeopardize that annexation, that's why we're asking to pull it to not include the creek.
Okay. And that just has to do with the legal description that's being annexed into the city.
Yeah, we just need the legal description
Yes.
and boundary survey to be accurate
Yeah.
to show that.
Does that make sense?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, yes and no, but I understand, so.
Okay. Any questions from commission? You have any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Pardon?
I'll entertain a motion. Are you trying to make a motion?
Yeah, I'm a motion to move it on.
Okay. Motion for approval of the annexation. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion and the second? In my opinion, this is very close to what we just went through was it end of last year that the other one came through?
Last year.
So this does not, and Jane, correct me if I'm wrong, but this does not establish any zoning. It is just annexing the property. They will have to come back and establish the zoning.
Yes,
And amend the comp plan if
Yes.
necessary.
yes.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. There's no other discussion. I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes. Thank you. Next, we will have item number 5. This is Mayberry annexation. It's annexation and plan of service. Jillian, is this you as well?
Yes, it is. So this property is adjacent to the previous property on this agenda, and also is adjacent to the Gregory property to the south. Neither one of these properties is contingent on the other one getting annexed. They are both contiguous by their own right. This property is approximately 128 acres as well, and goes along Brights Lane, although we are not including any portion of Brights Lane with this request. This will have a public hearing, and it will go on to City Council with your recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Jillian. Anything from engineering?
Nothing from engineering.
Thank you. This item has a public hearing as well, so at this time, we will open up the public hearing. Seeing no one wishing to speak, actually, is there someone wishing to speak? Okay, seeing no one wishing to speak, I will close the public hearing, And I'll call for a representative from the applicant.
Yes, I'm Ed Mayberry, resident is 801 Haney Place in Gallatin, and I'm one of the co-owners of this land along with my sister, so I guess we are an owner and applicant at this, in the same venue here.
Okay.
Are there any questions? We would appreciate, obviously, a positive consideration of the annexation into the city, obviously along with the Massey property that we adjoin one another, along with the Mr. Ike Gregory property
Okay,
as well. Yes, sir.
awesome. Jillian, does this one have a similar condition as the last one?
It
or
does
no?
not, because the
Okay.
creek doesn't come onto this property.
Okay, so this one, no conditions. Does the commission have any questions for the applicant?
Motion.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Tanner. Again, like I said on the last one, this one falls in line with what we just did at the end of last year. So I'm also in favor of this. So at this point, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 All those opposed? Passes.
Thank you for your consideration. Thank you very much.
Next, we will go to item number 6. This is Twin Ponds amended preliminary master development plan and final master development plan. Jim.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Jim Carpenter, staff planner. The owner and applicant request approval of an amended PMDP and FMDP for Twin Ponds subdivision on 131.64 acres, zoned R10 PRD, medium density residential planned residential development district, consisting of 266 single-family detached residential lots located south of Long Hollow Pike and west of St. Blaise Road. So the main change for this are these red shaded lots along Public Road A. One of the conditions of approval for the PMDP was that lots that fronted onto that road be side-loaded, side or rear-loaded. It's not, this current design has them as side-loaded. And so they need a little bit wider lot to accommodate the side-loaded development. And it's an increase for these from 52 feet to, no, from 53 feet wide to 72 feet wide. One of the other comments that we had, HVAC units cannot be located inside yards of less than 10 feet wide. That's a fire access issue. So they'll have to relocate the HVAC units to the rear of the properties. Along with this, at work session, we had just received the tree survey that day. So let's see if we can get. So this is an overall tree survey for the west and southern property boundaries. They're showing about 490 trees. Of those, 11 are slated for removal. And it's very, one here, one there. This is really the only spot that there's more than one kind of in proximity. And so the condition of approval from the PMDP that said either retain the trees or place a berm, it's really not, from an engineering standpoint, it's not really feasible to put a berm for kind of one tree here, one tree there. So it appears that the applicant has gone down the route of trying to maintain the existing tree lines here. Let's see. I talked about the architecture. So the plans indicate architecture that is consistent with the 70% brick stone approved with the PMDP. Any siding that will be on these units will be cementitious, so no vinyl. And there are some notes in there that call that out. Let's see. Going through those. And then with that, since it is an amended PMDP, staff recommends that this be considered minor since lots are getting wider and kind of, in essence, it's providing a little bit more spacing. And we recommend, our staff recommends approval of Resolution 2026-052 with 34 conditions.
Okay.
And there will be public comment.
Thanks, Jim. Engineering, would you like to add anything on this?
Sure. So the traffic impact study has been all but approved. There will be some slight adjustments to what they're showing on Long Hollow Pike. Other than that, we'll see some ECPs. So we'll do a more thorough review at that point.
Okay. You said the traffic study is almost approved, basically.
Basically, we're just waiting on signatures.
Okay. All right. So this is a public hearing. So item number 6 is a public hearing as well. So at this time, I'll open up a public hearing for those wishing to speak on this item. And if you would please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, it would be appreciated. Okay.
Hello, James Mitchell. I live on 1041 Sugar Tree Lane. What is the starting date on this subdivision? Is there a starting date for the contractor?
So,
So-
you want me to answer that?
Go ahead, Jim.
So the plans say that they're going to start winter of this year, but it's winter of 2026 is what's indicated on the plans.
Okay,
Thanks, Jim.
all righty. And I got something a little different I want to bring up. Why can't whoever raises the flag out in front of this place take it all the way to the top of the pole instead of having it 4 foot down from the top? Just something y'all need to talk about on that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Yes, ma'am.
Julie Poole, 1049 North Sugar Tree Lane. Only thing I kind of want to talk about, we were nice. Talked to the loose design and engineer out there, that some things that we were concerned about. In the vote with the council, we brought up that Marty Cook, I got up and said that, they were going to try to keep it where we couldn't see their houses, we wouldn't see they do the berm. I'm okay without the berm, and as we talked to them, they said that 10 foot back from the property line, not disrupting our trees, or they're just as much our trees as the property. They're the property line trees. And we're great for them not touching those. But our canopies go out. I got out and measured from the property line, or the middle of the tree is 31 feet. And so what I discussed with Marty Cook out there was, they come in and put in after 10 feet and clear all that brush. Well, back in there, the brush is, I don't know what you call it. It's like ivy, but they're like a tree itself. It is so tall and hanging from those trees. If they come in there with equipment and clear that, they're going to kill our trees. They're going to pull branches down. I know they're old hackberries, but I like my hackberries because they provide privacy. And I go around all these other developments, and they put in nice bushes. Yeah, they're great, but if they have a spring like this, once they're gone and done, and the HOA has to take care of these bushes, I don't know how many places I drive around, and half of them are dead. So then there's no privacy. And so our thing is, as I told them, if they could just leave the brush. I don't care. I mean, I know they want something pretty for the people that are moving in back there, but if they come in there with their heavy equipment and clean that brush up, like I say, it's going to cost. And I tried to read as much as I could. I don't know what all here it says, but it under the very first page, it has under tree protection. I'm trying to find it here. I know it read it's any damage to be done for grading. They would call in a tree surgeon, and then they would put up fences to protect our trees. And so is that going to go all the way, is that just going to be around the trunk? Or is that going to go all the way out to the drip line? I mean, these trees are probably 150-year-old trees. They are old trees. And I've lost in my yard from the ash wood beetle, I've already lost 6, possibly 8 trees now, and I had to treat 6. And if they knock down there, I'm not gonna have any trees around my property at all. And I also had another question. The engineer said it didn't even matter. The state, y'all can't control under demolition. No. Is it under demolition? Item number, it was on explosive. It said no explosives would be permitted, but I guess that doesn't really matter. Y'all can't control that. I don't even know why it's in there. Y'all have no control over that. As we said, behind us now, they explode and it's awful. There's tons of limestone. And again, the dust. Are we going to be protected? It says in there under 1, there's so much to read here that if anything is damaged with dust or all, that they will be responsible for cleaning. Are they going to be responsible for cleaning up if we're covered in dust again, like we are? I guess. But my big thing is this barrier is leaving, and I'm hoping they work with us. They talked to us before, but I think that the 25 foot, if they could just leave alone what's there, it's not going to die. We won't be able to see their houses. They can't see ours, and that's the big thing that we're asking, is that they don't come in with heavy trucks and destroy that brush that's underneath our trees that provides a barrier. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda McMeans, 1051 North Sugar Tree. I have a couple of questions. I don't know if maybe they can address. I know that he asked about when they would start, where phase 1 is going to start, and the roads that are coming through. I don't think it was ever quite really discussed when this got passed. There's a lot of wetlands back there, ephemeral streams, how they're going to go over that without destroying those wetlands back there. So I don't know if they'll mention that, but we were all concerned about that as well.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and I will call from the applicant to come forward.
Bobby Bell, Los Design. I'm the engineer on the project.
Marty Cook, 100 Bluegrass Commons, also representing the applicant and owner.
Okay. Do you guys have, I guess, answers to some of the questions that the members of the public had?
Yeah, I can talk about the construction. We're planning on wintertime of this year, ideally. I think that's just ultimately up to approvals and permitting for the project. As far as the tree survey, so that was a condition during the city council process to look into, where applicable, a berm, retaining as many of the existing trees as possible. So what we had done was get a tree survey for the western and southern property lines, all the Sugar Tree and then the St. Blaise Estates homes. And we basically said, hey, 10 foot onto our property, we're just going to call it a no disturbance zone. So instead of being able to grade up to the property line, we're just going to say, hey, 10 foot up to, from our property line, we're not going to touch. So that was the intent was, and you can see it here, out of the 490 trees, 11 are coming down. So that's 2%-ish, doing quick math there. You were taking down 2% of the trees. And then what we're doing is behind that 10 foot is where we are disturbing. We're then coming in with our proposed landscaping to provide, more buffering there. And then I worked with Jillian a little bit on this one. I think kind of the intent, correct me if I'm wrong, Jillian, is anywhere there are currently openings is where they're going to really want us to emphasize the new buffering to provide that. Anywhere there's existing, we're hoping to utilize that as much as possible. And then again, come in with any additional buffering behind that. And then I forget what.
Oh, and just one more thing on that, because I know this was a hot topic through the approval process. And as he said, very small number of trees are having to be removed because of they're dead or whatever. But I just want to reemphasize, the screening and the privacy is just as important to the developer as it is the residents of Sugar Tree. And they're going to make a significant investment in both keeping the trees and adding landscaping where needed to make sure that screening's in place. Because that goes both ways. The new residents that are buying these homes are going to want screening as well. So that's something that is very important, and the developer is committed to the investment to making sure that that does happen.
Okay. I guess while we're on the topic of the buffer, Jim, is it a 20-foot landscape buffer?
Yeah, so it is a type 25 landscape buffer on the western boundary. Let's see. There's another map somewhere. So this legend kind of gives a little bit of a color description. So the red, I believe it's type 25. There's a small part here that is type 50, and then I believe it's a type 10 or 15. Here on the north and south property lines, basically along Long Hollow, and then on the portion kind of along Bison Trail extended.
So we have 25 feet to the property line, and then what's the setback on these lots?
So setbacks, I believe it's a 15-foot rear yard. So that would be 15 beyond
Okay.
that.
Okay. So there's pretty decent amount of room there for them to stay off of the landscape buffer that's there. Okay. Did y'all have anything to add or any questions for staff, for engineering, or for planning?
I had a couple on resolution items 16, 17, and 21. They were about traffic calming measures along the main Road A corridor that goes from Long Hollow that will eventually connect to Bison Trail. We just were curious if we could get these somehow revised to where we will just work with the engineering staff during the design process to accommodate any sort of traffic control measures that they want on Road A.
Okay. So 16, 17, and 21 are all associated with Road A.
Correct.
Engineering, do you guys see any issue with them working with y'all through the ECP process for that?
I don't.
Okay. I don't necessarily either, because I know for a long time, at least I know Aaron and I have spoke about this a ton as far as traffic calming is concerned. They're still trying to figure out exactly what the best approach is. I know there's also a discussion that has to occur with fire as well to make sure that, I guess, there's multiple parties happy with the calming measures. So that doesn't necessarily remove the condition. What it does is just amends the condition for them to work with y'all through that construction document process. So if you're comfortable with that, I don't see that being an issue.
Yeah,
Does
we're
the
good.
commission have any comments or rebuttals to that?
I guess if we remove it, how can we ensure that they still?
So I don't think they're asking. I don't think the request is to remove it.
Okay.
I think the request is for them to we add language to each one for them to work with engineering staff to, I guess, come to a resolution on how they provide the traffic calming measure for the road.
Okay.
Which is pretty much in line with some of the conditions we've seen on historical projects.
So like, for example, on 16, it would be like Road B, Road D, Road G, or work with engineering to come up with an alternate.
Yeah, that's how we would prefer that to be written, as opposed to just striking them. And
Yeah, I don't think we should strike them because I think the traffic calming needs to occur.
Sure.
But I definitely think, especially if there's additional discussion that needs to be had between the engineer and engineering department, I think that's appropriate. Okay. Does planning
I
staff
had a question,
have anything
actually.
to add?
I had a question not regarding this, but regarding architecture. If I don't know if we've moved on this topic or not, but.
Does planning have comments on the traffic calming?
No.
Okay. What's your question, Brian?
It was just regarding the architecture for the side load products specifically. I know the previous submission had Pulte homes with the side load products, but I think the revised elevations that were submitted now has the Shell Brothers homes as a side load. Is that just how you guys had, you sort of made a switch in there, and was that the intent?
Yeah, I don't think that they're 100% certain on who is, but currently as is the Shell is providing the side load product.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted that clarification. Want to make sure we weren't missing some Pulte side load.
But they ultimately, I mean, from what I can see, I mean, they adhere to the requirements of the existing PMDP, correct?
Correct. They did switch a lot of the materials to be brick and stone now, so I think they're meeting the 70% brick and stone requirement. Really, after that, it's just a matter of making sure that the submitted building plans that come in match what's here.
Okay. And then I guess thinking back, because I know this came through, beginning of last year? When the previous project came through, were they, Brian, refresh my memory, were they meeting the brick and stone requirement at that time?
They did, and it was a different builder that had they had originally submitted it with, and so we were excited, and then when we saw the previous submission, when it first came in for this application, not having the brick and stone, we were slightly dismayed about that, but now that it's brought back to the brick and stone, I think we're happy.
Okay.
I did have one other question, and this was brought up in the presentation about number 4 on the conditions, and that's the HVAC units not being on the side. Just wanted some clarification on that. Certainly understand the ordinance there, but just wasn't sure whether there's any flexibility at all. I mean, it is important to these builders, that they have a backyard outdoor living environment. That's a big thing for the potential purchasers, and just didn't know whether that was just hard and fast or whether there's any, can there be staggered HVAC units if it's practical in certain places and still meet that requirement, or is that just a absolute?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jim.
Yeah.
Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, so it's basically the zoning ordinance as written does not allow HVAC units in 5-foot side yard setbacks. And that was,
Anything smaller than 10 feet
yeah.
Okay.
have an HVAC unit in it.
And that's for fire access to get to the back. 10 feet on each side is 20 feet. You encroach 3 feet, 5 feet, you still have room to get back in case you have to get people out of the back of a building. It's much more difficult to do that with a 6-foot side yard. A lot of these homes probably won't go to that full 6-foot side yard. Some may, especially some of the side-loaded ones. So that's kind of where we are with that is if the homes are wide enough to hit that 6-foot side yard, then we couldn't have HVACs in that.
Okay.
I think on the side-loaded ones, actually, I mean, if you have to side-load, you have a driveway that's going to take up 20 feet, and they plop it onto that side. Of course, not every home's going to be a side-load, but that does cover at least a decent portion of your lots already to be on the side versus, in the rear. But again, we do have the zoning ordinance regulation that I don't know that we can vary from that.
Yeah, it would apply to anybody.
I guess Marty had a good question. What if the HVACs are staggered? I guess even at that point,
So I can tell you that originally came from, it's been about 10 years, but it was because they were having issues with stormwater drainage going through the middle of home, like between homes.
Yeah.
And even if they were staggered, it was creating an issue stormwater wise. I remember when that kind of first got online. And so now these homes are so close together, even if you stagger them, you're still creating an issue. And it's still against code, like regardless of if they stagger. The code says anything smaller than 10 feet, side yards, you shouldn't put an HVAC in it.
Okay,
Everyone's gonna have to do that.
okay. So more so a life safety issue than it is a drainage issue?
I think now, it started as a drainage issue, but I think it's.
More so life safety, okay.
Fair enough. Thank you for the explanation. I appreciate that.
Any questions from the commission? Any other questions from staff? I know, Jim, you said we have to vote on whether or not it's a major or minor amendment. What is the one question I did have for you, what is the delta, what's the drop in density?
So the drop in density was from the original submittal, I believe, and I could be wrong.
277.
Yeah, it was 277. And I think I saw a version of the plan at some point with 272. So
Now it's 266.
now it's 266.
Okay,
But I think that 266 is what it like finally ended up with through planning commission, or not through planning commission, through city council. So there were quite a few versions of this through the PMDP process. So
okay. That makes sense. One more question that I just thought of. I know the lady that spoke last mentioned the environmental features on site. I'm assuming that y'all have had an environmental engineer work through this and apply for permitting and.
We're going through that process right now.
Okay.
As far as most of the features, we're trying to span most of the features on site.
Okay. I know that permitting effort is very extensive, and it's a long, arduous process you have to go through. Any questions?
Yeah, so another comment that they had was about the trees, if you're kind of cutting down some of them, and I'm not a tree expert by any means. Could you explain if you're cutting down a tree that's right next to another tree, will we kind of ensure, I guess, I don't know how I'm kind of trying to phrase this, but how do we ensure that all those trees won't get damaged in that process, or?
I'm not a landscape architect either. My understanding is that when you look at trees, you can look at the canopy of them, and you can kind of just take a blanket, go down from there, and say, hey, if you're disturbing underneath this, you got the potential to kill the roots, damage the roots, injure the tree. As far as trees next to each other, I'd imagine it kind of falls in the same category where the roots are getting in there, intertwining, and if you're pulling up one, you can potentially pull up the other. So as far as the trees and the privacy issue is, we wanted to keep as many existing trees out there as possible, and we were very much aware that there are also trees along this canopy that not only are on our property, but going into the neighbor's property as well. So by us providing a 10-foot, hey, we're not even going to get 10 foot from our property to the property line is hey, we're kind of saying we're going to do our best to anything that's on your property that's an extra 10 foot that you're getting that we're going to try to save, and then anything on the property line as well. I think we can go further during the engineering review to look at the specific size of the trees and whatnot, but that's kind of my best answer for you.
And I appreciate from the last work session that you guys have removed that request to reduce the 70% brick. So I just wanted to say, I'm happy to hear that. So.
Tanner, do you got any questions?
I don't.
Steve, do you have any questions? No? Okay, if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion.
I got a question I'd like to ask.
Okay, so,
Do that?
well, we've already closed the public hearing unless the commission votes to suspend the rules to allow you to speak.
Well, I mean, they changed it from the last meeting we had.
Do y'all want to suspend the rules to allow this gentleman to speak?
I'm not making a motion, no.
Okay. So does anyone have a motion to allow him to speak? Okay. Okay, so, sir, apologies, but per our bylaws, we've already closed the public hearing, and we now have to move forward. Is there a motion?
Yes, I will move to approve.
Before you do that, we need to make a motion on whether or not it's a major or minor amendment.
Oh, okay.
So normally, whenever you decide on whether or not it's a major or minor amendment, you have to look at things like density, you have to look at things like circulation, you have to look at things like product type, major changes. In my opinion, we're not changing the circulation of the site. We're actually reducing the density. Outside of the product type changing, they're still adhering to the material requirements. So in my opinion, this would be a minor amendment. I'll make a motion that this be a minor amendment.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of a minor amendment, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, so it's a minor amendment. Now, we can entertain a motion on the actual item itself.
All right, I will make a motion to approve and to amend conditions 16, 17, and 21 by adding a sentence at the end of each condition that says the applicant may work with engineering to come up to an alternative to meet this condition.
Okay?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Steve, you got anything? Sir? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, next we have item number 7, the Crossroads of Gallatin Phase 1 amended preliminary master development plan. Charlie.
Good evening, Commissioners. Charlie Fury, Staff Planner. The owner applicant is requesting approval of an amended preliminary master development plan for the Crossroads of Gallatin for Phase 1. This development is formerly known as the Chandler Marketplace Development. Phase 1 is going to be 17.14 acres and is zoned as PGC, Planned General Commercial, located north of Harris Lane and east of Greenlee Boulevard. This item will have a public comment period.
Okay.
So this is the current approved plan for the Chandler Marketplace that was approved back in 2020, if I remember correctly. There is a recently approved FMDP for a hotel on this corner. We will be talking about this bottom portion that is the commercial part, which will be the Phase 1 of the new plan. The applicant is proposing a mixed commercial multi-tenant retail and food service center that will be accessed from Greenlee Boulevard, Harris Lane, and then a future access from Phase 2 when surrounding properties develop. The overall development has a proposed 1,206 parking spaces. The maximum that is allowed for the site as a whole is 1,234. This encompasses both Phase 1 and Phase 2. Because the count is within the maximum, an exception to the parking count will not be needed. Stormwater infrastructure will be installed to direct any water runoff to I believe it's a detention pond on the north side of Phase 2. The applicant is proposing signage for this development. This slide is showing the proposed location of the multi-tenant signs. This example is going to be for location B, located in Phase 1. A height exception will be required for this for this sign. The applicant is proposing a monument sign that will be at locations C and D. The pylon sign is not a permitted sign in our zoning ordinance, so staff will have to work with the applicant for an alternative sign. All signs will comply with the zoning regulations and will have their own permitting process. The applicant is proposing a type 20 buffer landscaping around the perimeter of the entire site for both phase 1 and phase 2. PGC landscaping standards will apply to this development, and the details for those will be further solidified in the FMDP process. The applicant proposes architecture for these buildings, in which they are going to be primarily composed of masonry, brick, and stone materials, CMU brick, and metal accents. This is some architecture that was revised and submitted to us on Friday. It represents a significant increase in generic brick and masonry materials, a decrease in CMU brick, and adding some metal accents. I do not have the percentages for these. The applicant will speak a little more on that in a moment. Because there are CMU materials and metal accents on these buildings, the applicant will be requesting an alternate architecture plan. The zoning ordinance gives criteria for a master plan amendment, which determines whether or not these are major or minor amendments. Staff has determined that phase 1 of this development will be considered a minor amendment because the proposed changes are fairly minimal. The overall use and intensity of uses in phase 1 are commercial and are consistent with what was recently approved and will remain unchanged. With that, the Planning Department recommends approval of Resolution 2026-051 with 18 conditions. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Would engineer like to add anything to this?
Sure. So based upon conversation that was had at work session, we've asked for a mid-block crossing at Harris Lane at the Gallatin Commons apartment complex. There was also a lot of discussion revolving a traffic impact study. I just do want to note that we have not received a traffic impact study to this point. And then the last thing is this property will be subject to contributions to the Greenlee Boulevard interchange project.
Okay. Awesome. Let's see. So this, item number 7 will have a public hearing. At this time, I will open up a public hearing for those wishing to speak on this item. Seeing no one wishing to speak, I will close the public hearing, and we will call for a member from the applicant to come forward.
Good evening, Tim Mondello, GBT Realty, 9010 Overlook Boulevard, Brentwood, Tennessee. We are the applicant for this proposed project. It's a approximately 300,000 square foot organic grocery anchored shopping center, earmarked for the northeast corner of Harris Lane and Greenlee Boulevard. Looking to hopefully start construction later this year, and welcome any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions off the bat from the commission? I know, Charlie, you had brought up in your presentation, I guess we'll talk about this now. You brought up in your presentation the signs. It's my understanding now I know that sign there that's shown on the screen, they're asking for an exception for height on. Are they asking for an exception on the other sign as well? I guess, yeah, that one.
Brad, what is the height on the monument sign?
The height of the monument sign is 10 feet.
Okay. And then, sorry, refresh my memory on the taller sign that they're asking for an exception for. Where is that located? Is that at B and C?
Or location B.
Location B? Location B only?
From discussions I had with the applicant earlier today, that when they revise their submittal, they're going to be removing option A.
Okay. Like
Unless that has
entirely?
changed.
You'll move option A entirely?
I'm fine with removing option A, but I do request the 30-foot monument sign for locations B and C.
And be aware there is a condition of approval number 6, that all monument signs shall meet the requirements of the Gallatin zoning ordinance, And so if this body determines that they want to give them a sign exception, they'll need to revise that condition.
Okay. And you said that's condition 6?
Yes.
So I know, did we issue I guess an exception for the sign for the development south of here where Target's going?
Yes, they did receive an exception for the square footage of the sign and the height of the sign.
I'm assuming not only that the height is not meeting, but the square footage on this one also is not.
The square footage on this is too big, yeah, just given the height of it. I think that that other development was a 19-ish foot tall sign, but it was much wider than code. And they got that requested with their FMDP submittal. This one is a 30-foot tall sign.
Okay.
I would just like to comment that I think I think the 30-foot sign would make sense. I'm having trouble with C. That's just really big on that corner there.
I would agree. I drive past that area a lot. Could you talk us through why you're requesting a higher sign on C?
The intent is to maximize the visibility from the intersection for the retailers, both from Vietnam's veteran coming south as well as on Greenlee coming north. So it's really just about the sight lines to try to get as much customers into the shopping center. That's always the number one question that we get as a retail developer is what are the sight lines, what are the signage that we can get on site to effectively attract customers into the property.
Will there be a line of sight from Vietnam Vets to sign C if it's 30 feet high, given the development that's in between Vietnam Vets and the sign? Like a restaurant, daycare, all that in between.
You mean on the L parcels along Greenlee there?
Yes, just like to the left of sign C on this depiction, there's a development. So I guess I'm just wondering if it would even be visible from Vietnam Vets. If the sign would be over that development.
I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that question.
Okay.
Vietnam Vets sits down lower anyways. When you get off the off ramp, you come up.
Is there anywhere else in town that has a sign, or in the city that has a sign of 30 feet?
I'm sure there's older signs.
I'm just trying to visually compare
But in
it
the
when-
last 10 years, in the time I've been here, we've never approved a 30-foot tall sign. So any 30-foot tall signs would be older ones before we have
I was just trying to like visualize.
I mean, I think unless there was like an exception, like I know the signs over at Savannah, they're taller, but it's because they sit down
Because they
like
sit so low.
12 feet lower, and it's
They
not
won't be
the
30
sign.
feet above the
It's not the
road.
sign itself. It's the actual like pedestal that it's sitting on that's had to be taller.
Yes.
I want to say that the tallest sign that's been approved over the last, I don't know how long, is the one that we just recently approved at Target.
Which was 19 feet?
It was 20 feet. It was 20 feet, and it was 25 foot wide.
Something like that, yeah. But it was about 20 feet tall. And I think they got 2 of them.
We could leave that condition and approve, and I could come back for a sign variance. Is that correct later?
So this still requires a final master development plan, and you can review a different sign at that point as well. Maybe want to reconsider size or layout.
Do you guys have any idea what's going at the corner there yet?
At the hard corner?
Yes.
I do. I'm not able to disclose it today.
I'm not asking for you to disclose it. But I guess my question is, would you have room for a wider sign, but not a taller sign?
I think so, yeah.
Because in my opinion, us doing that would be in line with what we just did with Target. It's a slightly different situation because I feel like this intersection is a lot more intimate than what's out in front of Target. I feel like there's a lot more open space in front of Target. So part of me feels like a wider sign would almost hurt sight lines to the actual building itself at the corner. So that's why I'm struggling with.
I think if we can get the same sign square footage, but make it wider, and we could put some masonry elements to it, maybe some planters next to it, or a part of the actual sign, with some landscaping on it, more of like a master sign, architectural design intent, I think would be, the retailers would be open to that.
Jane, or Charlie, sorry. I don't want to avoid asking you, Charlie. Is this condition 6? So all condition 6 says just all monument signage shall meet the requirements of the Gallatin zoning ordinance.
Yes. And you can, if you feel that you'd like to deviate from that, you could say except for a so-and-so size sign at location. That's what I would propose.
So knowing that they have to come back with the FMDP, I guess could we establish a height now, but not necessarily a width, and then let them come back to us at the FMDP with a revised or amended?
You also could just make a statement at the end of that sentence on number 6. It just says an alternative sign package may be submitted with the FMDP. But somehow you want to caveat that you're not approving the signs that are included with this packet per se. I'm just thinking out loud on how to phrase that, but leave it open-ended.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying. That way they can come up with their design. If the design needs to be, of a certain size that you haven't specified in this, then, they're back to asking for some other exception.
Yeah.
So.
I'm with Tiffany. I don't mind the height of the sign. I don't mind the height of the sign at B. But with the intersection, I feel like it's not as appropriate.
Yeah, if there's a height that could be set today, that way we can come back and later fine tune the design. I think that would be a decent path forward.
My comment to today, if I was to establish a height today, it would be 20 feet.
Okay.
For reference, typically the attachment height of a traffic signal mast arm is at 22 feet. So that's
Okay.
just kind of underneath there if we want to visualize. That's typical. I don't know this exact
It does help.
sign, but that's typically what it would look like. So it'd be about the same height as where the mast arm is being attached.
Would the 20 feet be for both signs C and B? Or just for C?
I think if I'm picking today, it would just be for C. I'm okay with the height of the sign at B. Because of the proximity to the interstate, I think it makes sense. And there's some grade change there anyways. Do y'all agree?
And just to
You agree?
confirm, D is a lower sign as well, right?
Yeah, D is just a normal monument sign, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then we're removing A?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I think we got the signs figured out. Mitchell, can you shed some light on what you mentioned at the beginning when you had spoken about a mid-block crossing?
Yeah,
on
so
Harris?
I believe Tiffany brought up at the work session that it's called the Gallatin Commons Apartment Complex. It's on the south side of Harris Lane.
Yes.
Just provide a mid-block crossing so everybody from the apartment complex can walk up.
Oh, okay, a pedestrian crossing.
Yeah.
Okay. I was, but the boulevard right there still lines up with does that line up with the entrance to the apartments?
No.
One of them?
No.
But it would cross the street and then they would use the sidewalk at least.
Okay.
On the north side of the road. Instead of expecting them to go to the signal, we know that's not going to happen. At least make a marked crosswalk somewhere that hopefully they can utilize.
Okay. And you said at this time, no traffic study has been submitted, or was there a traffic study that was submitted with the original proposal back in 2020?
I don't know about that.
Okay, Aaron's shaking his head yes.
There you go.
But we just haven't received an amended one.
Correct.
Okay. Which
It's not
I know
required at
that's
the
not-
PMDP level,
yeah.
but
we would receive one before FMDP comes
Correct.
to us.
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to expand on that, we have the traffic study in hand, so we'll get that submitted to you probably this week here, Mitchell.
Okay.
And just to confirm, you guys are accepting of number 3 with the 70% stone, brick or stone, and then also number 17, that's in reference to the contributing to the 386 and Greenlee improvements?
For the number 17 for the 386 contribution fund, yes, we are in agreement to that. For number, was it
3 was the
Three.
brick,
3?
70% brick?
Yeah, we're respectfully asking for an exception for the 70% brick and stone. We can meet or exceed that on all primary facades. However, we are asking for the exception for the rear secondary facades. The updated elevations submitted on Friday do show enhanced features in the back with all, I don't know, if you go to the next one on the retail shops, with a stacked course of painted CMU in the sign band area, painted split face on the rear, all switchgear, utilities painted, dark bronze coping throughout on the rears, as well as a heavy landscape buffer in the back.
Staff, do you know what percentage that would be?
Could you repeat the question?
What percentage would that, what percentage does that end up being? Do you know?
As far as CMU or brick,
Like if you don't meet 70%, does it meet 50%? Does it meet 40%?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but yeah, the intent is for the primary front elevations as well as all elevations facing Harris will meet or exceed the 70%.
Okay.
So when I reviewed this architecture, my estimation roughly is about 55% regular brick and masonry. That could be higher or lower. That's just based on what I can see from the architecture.
Okay. Tiffany, do you have any other questions related to that?
No.
Okay, so a question for staff. If we approve the architecture as submitted, do we have to amend condition 3?
So condition three is written so that they would revise what they would submitted. So if you are amenable to an alternative, you'd have to reword number 3.
And just a reminder to this body, the you would have to vote on a major or minor amendment.
Yes, sir.
I think based off of, if I'm correct, the circulation kind of has changed as well through here. Is the circulation going to be the same as the same access points or?
Yeah, the access points will be the same.
Okay.
So, I guess we can talk about minor or major. I mean, in my opinion, yes, I realize it's a different layout, but I feel like with the access points being the same, the use being the same, they're not requesting a base zoning change. I'm inclined to say that this is a minor amendment to the PMDP. They're not drastically changing the use. It was already intended to be retail restaurant use. I'm assuming the out parcels would be restaurant retail uses.
That's correct, yep. Both sit-down and fast casual restaurants. And
Okay. With that being said, I'll make a motion that this be a minor amendment to the PMDP.
Second.
Okay, so we have a second from Tiffany. Any discussion on that motion and second? You good, Tina? Good, Steve? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? So it's a minor amendment. I guess we can finish discussing the condition 3.
Sorry.
I know that this is very typical construction for, yes, ma'am?
Rosemary Bates, Economic Development Agency. One of the previous stipulations for this property, which I am asking and making sure is going away with this approval, was to have a hotel on the property before any of those apartments could be built. But since they're foregoing apartments, which everybody should be very happy about, I want to make sure that that requirement goes away with the approval of whatever you approve here.
Yeah.
It will.
Okay.
Yeah, this, any zoning action that the city council takes, of course, this isn't a zoning action,
This is just here.
but it's still amending the PMDP for whatever uses are on the property, so yes.
Right. So I mean, we're okay
Yeah.
from our end of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And would encourage y'all to support what they're doing, especially because they're going to add retail in the back where the apartments are going to be. So
Yes.
just thank you for
I mean,
clarifying that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So I guess question for staff related to that. I mean, it's my understanding, because I was fully aware of that condition as well. It's my understanding that with this proposed plan, that condition would automatically go away because this is a brand-new master plan. I mean, you're amending the master
the plan and you're amending the thing that made that a requirement as well. So both
Yes.
components, the apartments and the hotel, are both
Yes.
going away. So, yeah.
If they were to come back and change their minds about the back part, how do we make sure that there is a stipulation that they add more sales tax generating property?
So, I mean,
on their
it would have to
plans
come, it would have to come back through this body and likely be considered a major change, which would then have to go back through council.
Yeah, so because
Okay.
they're going to rezone the northern part of the property, which will remove a residential allowance period.
All right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, my understanding, the next item is doing just that. They're going from
okay.
mixed use to PGC.
All right,
So
thank you.
they're removing
I
the,
just didn't want the hotel
Yeah.
requirement to still be
I agree, it
on their
shouldn't.
back, so.
Yeah, it should not be there. Okay, so we're good there. Thanks, Rosemary. I guess we were discussing condition 3. So very typical construction. I think it sounds like they've already enhanced their architecture some from work session on the fronts. The only thing I would add is that if I had to, I guess, amend the condition, I would say fronts meet the 70% brick or stone, or any facade that faces a public street. So are y'all comfortable with that?
Yes, sir.
Or your parking areas too?
Yeah, but you have parking areas in the rear of the buildings.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking about the south side of that, where there is parking that faces that side of the building. Right there.
That faces the right of way.
That south edge faces Harris Lane. So that would have to meet.
You're talking about the back that's facing like to the east?
So, no, I was talking about that side facing Harris. So if it faces Harris or Greenlee.
Or Vietnam Vets.
Or Vietnam Vets. So really just the rear.
Yeah, I'm okay with the rear being the facade that they've proposed. But if it's a side that faces a public street, it should meet the 70% brick or stone. And that edge of the building is very short compared to the rest of it. Are y'all comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Yes, I don't think I'm tracking what they wouldn't have to meet the requirement on.
So they're already meeting the requirement. They're already stating that they'll meet the requirement along the fronts of everything.
Yep.
And so what they would have to update and meet their 70% requirement on is the far south side of, we're not even talking about phase 2 yet. We'll get there. Phase 1, on this particular project, the far south side of the strip would have to meet 70% brick or stone because it faces Harris Lane.
Right.
And then outside of that, really nothing else.
Okay.
I mean, they would be in kind with what they've already submitted.
But basically the east side, they would not have to.
Correct.
Okay.
And then all the out parcels would come back with their own FMDPs. So we'll have to review those once they come through.
Got it.
Steve, any comments?
I'm good.
Okay. So I'm going to take a stab at a motion, unless there's more discussion. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve with all staff conditions except amending item number 3 to state, revise the architecture to the 70% brick or stone requirement on all front facades and any facade that faces a public right-of-way. CMU brick does not count toward this requirement. Well, CMU brick does not count towards this requirement. Okay, and that's it. And I'm gonna go, do I have a second?
Amend, condition 6.
Oh, and thanks for the reminder. And also amending condition 6 to state trying to think how I want to say this. All monument signage shall meet the requirements of the Gallatin zoning ordinance, except at location B, where the sign can be 30 feet tall and 12 foot wide, and except at location C, where the sign can be 20 feet tall. I'm not going to establish a width right now. And then add a sentence stating that all signage to be confirmed or approved with the submittal of the FMDP. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a second. So discussion. Please verify. Y'all can meet the 70% brick or stone requirement on the fronts.
Correct.
Okay. I don't have any other questions or comments. Charlie? Good? Okay. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Passes. Thank you. All right, number 8, this is Gallatin, or Crossroads of Gallatin, Phase 2. Charlie?
The owner and applicant requests the Planning Commission to recommend approval of a rezoning of 25.35 plus or minus acres from MU Mixed Use District to PGC Planned General Commercial District for the Crossroads of Gallatin Phase 2, formerly known as the Chandler Marketplace Master Plan, located east of Greenlee Boulevard and north of Harris Lane. So for Phase 2, we're going to be talking about the northern half of this property that is currently zoned as MU. And with the previous master development plan, the proposal was for multifamily residential apartment uses. The applicant is proposing a continuation of what they're doing in Phase 1, so a proposed mixed commercial multi-tenant retail center with outparcels that will require their own FMDP as they develop. Pedestrian connections will continue along the access road coming from Harris Lane, and this northern phase will be accessed from a future road along the south here when the surrounding parcels develop. Stormwater infrastructure for Phase 2 will also follow suit with Phase 1, going to a detention pond on the very north side of the property. We already talked about signage. Each multi-tenant will have, each tenant in the center will have their own signage, which will have to be approved per the standards of the Gallatin zoning ordinance. Landscaping buffer yard is again proposed type 20 around the perimeter. PGC landscaping standards will still apply, and interior parking or interior planting areas on the parking lots will also apply as well. Architecture for Phase 2 is going to be similar to that of Phase 1, again revised from a submittal on Friday, composed of an improvement on the account for brick and masonry materials with CMU brick and metal facades. The applicant will be requesting a alternate architecture plan for this as well. And for Phase 2, whether this will be a major or minor amendment, the zoning is going to be changing on this property, and so will the intensity of the uses and the uses themselves. So when that happens, it'll automatically go to major amendment. That is staff's recommendation. And with this rezoning, it'll also move on to City Council after this. There is a public comment for this item. And with that, planning staff recommends approval of Resolution 2026-054 with 15 conditions. Thanks.
Thanks, Charlie. Engineering, do y'all have anything to add?
No major comments from engineering.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll open up a public hearing on item number 8. Seeing no one wishing to speak, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll call for the applicant again.
Tim Mondello, GBT Realty. Phase 2, approximately 140,000 square feet, sporting good anchored portion of the shopping center, craft stores, soft goods, as well as sit-down restaurants as well. And welcome any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I guess question for staff. I know we discussed at length about the signs for Phase 1. You're removing the sign in Phase 2 at location A. So do we need to, I guess your condition is only include signage information for signs proposed in Phase 2. So I mean, that could remain.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't have to amend that. And then I know you agreed to this in Phase 1, but in Phase 2, do you agree with the 70% brick and stone on the front and side facing public right of way?
Yes.
I guess I know the that building at the top left. is, I guess, rotated to a point to where you can technically visibly see it. In my opinion, the left side of the building should meet 70% brick or stone, but the rear of the building, I don't think needs to meet it. Any comments or questions on that? I'm just trying to think through what the language needs to state in this point. It's and on this item, it's condition 2. But outside of that, I mean, this is, so I know Charlie stated this, but this is going to council for approval. And this amends the base zoning from MU to PGC. Okay. Any discussion or questions for staff or the applicant? Okay, I'll take a stab at a motion here too. I will make a motion to approve with all staff conditions.
How to do major first.
No, this automatically goes to, do we still have to vote for that?
No, it
automatically goes to council.
I apologize.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a motion to approve with all staff conditions except amending condition 2 to state revise the architecture to 70% brick or stone requirement on all front facades and any facade that faces public right-of-way. CMU brick does not count toward this requirement.
Second.
We have a second. Motion and a second. Any discussion?
So just to be clear, that they would not have to meet it on the north or the east?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I think, staff, you would consider, like, if you look at that, the left side of the building, that would be the front, that front's 386. Okay. Yeah. To answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing no more discussion, call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 9, Nexus. Okay, hold on one second. Number 9. This is Nexus TN Amendment Number 6, rezoning with amended preliminary master development plan. Jim.
All right, thank you. The owner and applicant request approval to rezone 4.44 plus minus acres from the R8 PRD medium density residential planned residential development district to the MU mixed use district and rezone 5.25 plus minus acres from the MU mixed use district to the PBP planned business park district with an amended PMDP for Nexus, Tennessee, located south of Albert Gallatin and east of 109. So probably the best place to start. This is the current approved PMDP. We're talking about this parcel here. And this parcel here, basically not just swapping zoning, but kind of swapping use. As oh dear. So all allowed MU uses for this would be applicable to the new zoning, and just kind of like all things with Nexus, we are very conceptual with PMDPs. The specifics and the actual use would be laid out with FMDP. With the change, the applicant is still providing a minimum of 28% recreation area for the R8 PRD district. And with that, obviously this is a major amendment because it's going to council as a rezoning. But staff recommends approval of resolution 2026-055 with 5 conditions.
Thank you. Engineering, do y'all have anything to add?
Nothing to add. Nope.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll open up a public hearing for item number 9. Seeing no one wishing to speak, we'll close the public hearing and we'll call for the applicant to come forward.
Good evening, Chris Jansen with CSDG for the applicant. We're good with all conditions that were applied by staff and open to any questions that y'all have.
Okay, thank you. Commission, any questions, comments for the applicant or for staff? I don't see any issues with this. I think this is pretty straightforward. I think this makes sense. There's only 5 conditions. They all seem appropriate to me. Entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we're got item number 10. This is South Park Gallatin Daycare Center, amended PMDP and revised FMDP.
Yes, the owner and applicant are requesting approval of an amended PMDP and revised FMDP. This has previously been used as a daycare center, and the applicant is requesting to add the limited retail sales use to the property. This would be a conditional use permit that this board could approve. They would like to do like farmer market style booths inside one of the buildings, the one on the east side. So they're not proposing any site changes. They're not proposing any outdoor sales of any sort. They already have the parking for commercial business in place. Due to the addition of a use, this would be a major versus minor vote for you to consider. With the change in the mix of uses, it could potentially be considered a major amendment, but the property is set up for commercial, and the uses will not take place at the same time, is our understanding, that if whenever there is funding back in place for this use, the daycare would go back in and the limited retail sales would go away. The applicant can speak more to that if they would like to. There was some discussion at the work session about a grant and the daycare in the Shalom Zone and this property or this specific business being associated with that. I believe there were some discussions with the legal department about that can be enlightened upon as we review this case. But if you decide it's a minor change, it would stay with this body. There would be no further action. If you decide it's a major change, it would go on to City Council. But you have the opportunity to approve a conditional use permit in this capacity. This item would have a public comment, and the applicant is here this evening.
Okay, thank you. We will have a public comment. Okay. At this time, we'll actually, engineering, do y'all have anything?
Nothing to add.
Okay. At this point, we'll open up a public hearing on item number 10. Seeing no one wishes to speak, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll call for the applicant to come forward.
Andy Leith, Greenlee Design, 114B, West Main Street. Also have representatives of the daycare here if we need to call them up. Chris, is pretty straightforward. I'll entertain any questions you've got. If you want to talk about the issues that Ms. Jillian brought up, we're happy to discuss those with you as well. But the request is pretty simple, to open up the use for retail, to try to bring some revenue in for the daycare.
Okay. Any questions or comments from?
I would like to hear from legal.
Oh, yeah. Yes, Ben, please.
Good evening, everyone. So I looked over the paperwork for the grants, and the requirements were specifically about having a lease at the Shalom Zone, and also about how many new jobs it created. That, as far as I could see, there was nothing that required that any other property be used for a daycare. I don't know if they're meeting all of their other requirements. All I know is that there was nothing in the grant that said that this specific building had to be used for childcare.
Okay, thank you. I know there was a lot of discussion around that at the work session, so it sounds like that clears that discussion up. I don't know if commission has any other questions centered around that. Okay, before we do that, we need to vote that it's a minor or major amendment. I mean, in my opinion, I think this property is already operating as a commercial property. And I think the fact that this is already a conditional use within the zoning, I would consider this a minor amendment. So I will make a motion that this be a minor amendment. Second, so a motion and a second, any discussion on that?
Yes, can you remind me, what's the definition? Because I thought when we added a use that it was major, usually. What makes it a minor amendment? I guess maybe that's a question for planning.
Yeah,
'cause you-
it's changes to the plan regarding traffic circulation, uses, a number of things that I guess would, impact your surrounding neighborhoods. Density was one, intensity, architecture. So those types of things are where you would sort of make your determination on major versus minor. It's still your interpretation of how you interpret that, but those are the criteria that you try to base it on.
Okay, thanks.
I guess another question for staff. The fact that we're amending the PMDP and the FMDP, is that because of the zoning established? Because normally, if they were wanting a conditional use on the property, they would just go to the BZA.
So because it's a master plan, this board can approve conditional use permits.
Okay. So if there was not a master plan on this, and it was just base zone, there wasn't a master plan associated with it, they would have to go to the BZA.
They do the
for
BZA
conditional
first, and then they do a site plan through this board. So the daycare actually is a conditional use in this zoning and got the conditional use permit through the master plan process the first time.
Oh,
Even though
that's
I think it was partially a daycare. I think one building was a daycare, and they actually expanded it onto the next lot, and they just rezoned the whole thing to MRO.
What was the other lot used for?
It was previously just a single.
The other
family
lot
residence.
was previously, I believe, a residential
Yeah.
property, and this had that funny, MUG zoning that we try to
Yeah.
stick away from with the 400-foot or 200-foot requirement.
Yeah.
That's why we rezoned both properties to MRO. At the time, we didn't really change the use of the one property. But they did add the mobile home as part of the daycare facility at that time.
Okay.
So that's when we zoned it to MRO. And I would add, while you are contemplating, the daycare has made a sizable, investment in the Shalom Zone themselves. They're currently licensed for 142 kids. So this is an unfortunate situation, and the demand is decreased, not because there's not kids needing to be watched, but the state cut the voucher program.
Yeah.
So they're really hit hard, and this is something that they're trying to implement to keep their head above water and stay in business. So this isn't just a grab to create additional revenue. They've lost revenue with the vouchers going away. So they're trying to keep a daycare open.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second on the floor. We have a motion and a second for a minor or major amendment that we have to vote on. So, I guess since we have a motion and a second, is there any other discussion on that?
No.
Okay, so we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, so it's a minor amendment. Now, we will vote on the item itself. I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Next, we will have number 11, the Banks Phase 1B Amenity Center, Final Master Development Plan.
Yes, the owner and applicant are requesting approval of an FMDP for the bank's Phase 1B amenity center. So this is the first amenity center for this project, just behind a phase that recently just got final plat approval with the consent agenda. They are proposing a typical pool house building with a pool and various play courts and parking associated with that. Staff didn't have significant comments on this item, just very typical ones for an FMDP. Thank you.
Okay. So there's no public hearing on this one. So at this time, we will call for the applicant to come forward. While they're coming forward, engineering, do you have anything to add on this?
No, we have a few stormwater and site plan comments, but that can be addressed with the applicant.
Okay, awesome. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Brad Snyder, CSDG. We agree to all of the staff conditions and just here to answer any questions.
Okay. Yeah, this seems pretty straightforward to me. I will entertain a motion unless there's questions or comments for the applicant or staff.
Make a motion to approve?
Okay, we have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes. Thank you. Next, we'll go to item number 12. This is the bank's phases 3, 7, and 8 final master development plan.
Yes, the applicant's requesting approval of an FMDP for the bank's phases 3, 7, and 8. This is approximately 114 acres and consisting of 252 single-family lots, open space, public and private rights-of-way, greenway trails, native trails, and various other open spaces. This will connect the bank's development all the way from Lot 4 to Peach Valley and connect into the Kirkpatrick development that is now called the Harlow development to the north. Staff had typical FMDP comments.
Okay. Engineering, you have anything to add?
Nothing more to add. We'll get ECPs, so we'll have a more thorough review at that time.
Okay. Awesome. Is the applicant present?
Brad Snyder, CSDG. We have no issues with the staff comments or conditions. We'll get those addressed. The plan is matching up with the approved PMDP.
Okay.
Here for any questions.
Awesome. Any questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, sorry, I'm just trying to find where it was exactly. Again, I'm not a tree expert, so I just wanted to make sure when we were looking at some of these trees near the intersections, particularly the roundabout, are they going to be any sight distance issues there? I think the ones on the roundabout were Winter King Hawthorne. Again, I don't know what those look like, so I was just making sure, are they going to have enough clearance or?
I am not a tree expert as well, but we will make sure that we get the sight distance, sight lines established.
It did look like some of the parking spots got removed, so it looks like you've already looked at some of them. It was just at the roundabout. Just wanted to kind of make sure that we're.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look at that, and yes, we did adjust some of the parking just to avoid the sight lines there.
Awesome.
Okay. Good question. I think this is very much in line with what PMD P showed. So I will make a motion to approve with all staff conditions. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have project right next door. And that is item number 13, Harlow Development Phases 3 and 4, Final Master Development Plan.
Yes, this is a final master development plan for the Harlow development. This was previously known as the Kirkpatrick Gallatin development. Phases 1 and 2 have already gotten FMDP approval. This will connect this development into the bank's development to the south. This was for a little over 82 acres for 149 single-family lots. We had typical FMDP comments on this item as well.
Okay. Engineering, anything?
Same thing. We'll get construction plans and have a more thorough review at that time, but
Okay.
nothing more to add.
Okay. And then a traffic study was included with this at the PMDP level.
That's
So,
right.
okay. Awesome. Is there a member from the applicant present?
Keegan McCormick with Kinley Horn, here to answer any questions that y'all may have. As you said, it's in accordance with the PMDP, so.
Okay. And you agree with all of staff conditions?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this one?
Only thing I wanted to kind of point out is that this one does have the raised concrete intersection that we were kind of talking about on number 3.
Okay.
I did notice that. I don't know if we want to look at that anymore. I know that's something that's maybe that was probably asked by staff. I just kinda wanted
I'm
to know.
assuming, my assumption is that that was a comment and y'all just went ahead and addressed it.
Correct.
Okay. And are y'all comfortable with the raised intersection?
I have no issues with it.
Is engineering comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that answers that. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Okay, motion to approve with all staff conditions?
Yes.
Okay. Second by Steve. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Next, we will go to item number 14, Bledsoe Street, FMDP.
Item number 14
Oh.
was withdrawn by the applicant before this meeting.
Okay, awesome. So that's withdrawn. Next, we will, I guess, the final item in our regular agenda is item number 15, Station Camp Track FMDP.
Right. Thank you. The owner and applicant requests approval of a revised FMDP for Station Camp High School track building on a portion of a 123.4 acre parcel zoned MRO, multiple residential and office district located south of Bison Trail and west of Big Station Camp Boulevard. This one's pretty simple. The owner and applicant are requesting to build a 2,400 square foot pole barn storage building, metal building, which will require alternate architecture anyways. But because of the zoning of Station Camp, that's why it is a FMDP. So staff recommends approval of this with 5 conditions, and that long is here.
Okay. No public hearing. So is there a representative from the applicant present?
My name's Don Long. I'm the senior project manager for Sumner County Schools. I oversee all of our new construction renovation projects and trying to help the school get this building.
Okay.
They just got a new track and looking somewhere to store their track equipment.
Okay. Do you have any questions or comments for staff regarding the conditions? Do you agree with all the conditions?
I've not even seen the conditions. What are they?
So most of these are all very straightforward. The only one that you may have a question on is item number 3. But engineering, correct me if I'm wrong, which I didn't even give you an opportunity to speak. Obviously, with this building being 2,400 square feet, it would have to provide stormwater
quality
mitigation,
and quantity. Yes, sir.
Quality and quantity. I'm assuming they'll just have to work with your department to
That's right.
to get that captured. Okay. Any questions there?
I don't have any questions. I mean, we can do that. We don't have a civil engineer to calculate it, but
So I know historically, with this being over 800 square feet, when we've done this where it's a shed on someone else's property, they have been allowed to utilize, I guess you can say infill guidance with additional landscaping. Ryan, I don't know if you want to shed some light on that, but
Sure, I can go and shed some light on that. So this would kind of fall under the new infill permit that has been developed, part of the stormwater ordinance update at the end of last year.
Okay.
We don't quite have the permit in Intergov yet, but we're still operating under its regulation, and that would allow for them to utilize stuff similar to Metro's regulations for infill to be able to design something like a rain garden modified French drain without requiring an engineer.
Okay.
Because it's kind of designed through the Metro ordinance.
Okay, is that something that your department's willing to assist them with?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, thank you. That rate, we'll entertain a motion, or is there any questions or comments from commission? I'll make a motion to approve with all staff conditions. I have a second by Steve. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes. Thank you. At this time, we will go to, that's all of our regular agenda, and now we will go to other announcements, or other business, which we have discussion of the draft Gallatin zoning ordinance update. I believe the consultant is here to discuss and answer questions.
That's correct. We've got Anna Blevins and Bill Wright here from our consulting team from TPUDC to be able to present to you tonight the initial adoption draft of the zoning ordinance, or ZOCO. And we're really excited for it. This has been a long time in the making, and excited that they're here. Would love to have all the great input that we can from this board. Ultimately, this will be a recommendation, just as some of the other zoning amendments that came through tonight. Any kind of rezone or zoning amendment is a recommendation from this body to the city council. City council ultimately will adopt the ordinance itself. So with that, if it's okay, I'll turn it over to the consultants, and
Perfect.
away we go.
Awesome.
Okay. Brian, do you think you maybe should run through sort of where we are in the process, what we've done, or does everybody here already know that?
We've sort of kept them up to speed a little bit as we've gone through the process, but I'll reiterate it for anyone who's listening as well. We started this process really, frankly, 4 years ago for the contract part of it, but two years ago and about 3 months since the time when I started at the beginning of, we started probably in the beginning of February of 2024, reviewing the different aspects of the code that we would like to try to update, giving our consultants a little bit of guidance and direction on how to work through that. We had a plan-a-palooza with them in June, I believe, of that year, July of that year. And that was a 3-day event where they came out and, hardcore looked at things with us, a lot of public involvement in that process. And then since then, they resubmitted a public review draft that was out for public review as of June of last year. And then we received comments on that draft from a number of folks in the public. We sent all the compiled comments back to the consultants. Staff did a kind of a cursory review of what the comments were, tried to suggest what type of change needed to be made based on those comments. And then the consultants here resubmitted another version of the code. We've done that back and forth a few times. After getting the public review, we, as staff, reviewed what was resubmitted and kind of had some corrections to make. And then now we're finally to an adoption draft where we're hoping that we won't have a ton of changes really to make at this point. We feel like we've thoroughly vetted this thing to the nth degree, and we're looking for getting this code implemented at this point so that we can begin to not have to have some of these discussions that we've had even tonight where we have to grant a bunch of exceptions on different rules. We're looking to hopefully minimize the number of exceptions that we are granting so that people can sort of stick to the code and understand what to expect with their developments. So.
Awesome.
Thanks. Very good. What we're going to do, we don't need to introduce our team yet again. We know y'all have reviewed the code. We're going to try to just give you a refresher. We're not going to dig deep into the details. It's a significant document. Y'all don't want to sit here through all the details, I promise. And again, this is the adoption draft. Just really quickly, and I've said it before, one of the best ways to look at a document like this is to be familiar with the skeleton, the table of contents that lays out all the articles. You guys are doing this in a way that it's divided into separate topics very discreetly so that you don't have like all of the entire code all in one article, which is the other typical way to do it. I find it sort of refreshing to have little short articles as opposed to 200-page articles. So this is the table of contents. Article 1 is what I call the housekeeping article. It includes things like the intent of the ordinance, how it relates to other laws and other provisions of the city's regulatory documents. Covers non-conforming uses and structures and lots. It has a section that deals with transition rules, like if somebody's already submitted an application under the old document and is going forward, kind of what happens. It covers vested property rights. Tennessee's got a very strict vested property rights statute that it tracks. And then it covers performance guarantees. The second article is everything having to do with the zoning map. It incorporates the map by reference. It talks about how the map's supposed to be maintained. There's a concept that can be added anywhere on a zoning map for anything that's called a special requirement. Things that are they're not applicable throughout the whole district. They're just applicable in a small indicated spot of the district. Like if you want to require shop front frontages downtown, it would just have it take the main drag out here and show the shop front frontages just with a colored line on the zoning map. And then lastly, it talks about newly annexed properties and how they get zoned. Article 3, it goes through the various zoning districts. This is you or this is me? Yeah, I'll just go ahead. You know this part better than I do.
So it talks about your existing plan districts, so anything that is already under a master plan, and those just become a designated EPD district. I will defer to staff when it comes to any questions on that because they understand it much better than we do. But this is also where your base districts are established, so and also your overlays. I'm going to very quickly run through these, but just kind of at a higher level, this zoning ordinance is what we would call a hybrid zoning ordinance. So there's a combination of more conventional standards and more form-based standards. So kind of depending on what district you're in, you might have some more standards or you may have less. So each district is either a CD or an SD. CD stands for character district, and SD stands for special district. So just starting kind of from like the lowest density all the way up to the highest, your first one is CD1. This is your natural district, so there's not any land suitable for development. It's typically preserved or conserved. From what I remember, I don't think there is any in Gallatin right now, but that is an option that you could have in the future if you were to annex or something. CD2A is agricultural, so this is mostly agricultural land and you have very minimal residential development. 2A is rural. So it's a little bit of a step up from 2A. Not as much agriculture, just more rural, low-density, single-family detached. 3L is neighborhood large lot. That L stands for large lot. So this is more like suburban, if you think about it, type of development, single family. It's low density, you have larger lots, your setbacks maybe kind of medium to deep, and you will have sidewalks and street trees, and the blocks are a little bit larger. CD3 is neighborhood general, so this is more like traditional residential, like what you might find outside of a historic district. Your lots are going to be a little bit smaller than 3L, but it's still mostly single-family detached. And the houses are going to be a little bit closer to the street than you would find in a 3L. The houses are also going to be a little bit closer to each other, and your blocks are still relatively big. CD4 is where you start to introduce a mix of uses. So we kind of consider this more of like where things start to get interesting. It's more of a transition between maybe your downtown and or more residential. So it's medium density. You have a mix of building types, which I'll get into in a minute, and uses. Setbacks are still a little bit medium or maybe shallow in the front. And landscaping is more variable. You have streets with curbs, sidewalks, and trees, and the blocks are like medium sized. 4A is one that we thought could be interesting in Gallatin. I think it's close to the railroad, but it's more medium density. It's similar to CD4, but with a little touch of artisan, kind of maybe a little more funky, and more artisan industrial type of feel. CD4C is neighborhood corridor, so the C stands for corridor. So it's typically more along your corridors, your highways, and more auto-oriented. This is where you'd find most of your big box. I feel like I'm getting really loud. There's no residential in this district, but you typically have more big box further back, and then what we would call liner buildings that are closer to the front to typically mask the large amounts of parking that you may currently have. So it's kind of just a way to fill in the gaps and get rid of some of that massive sea of parking that is common in big box developments. CD5 is your downtown. So this is your highest density, a lot of different types of uses. You have a tight network of streets. The blocks are smaller and buildings are very, very close to the sidewalks. And then civic, CDCV, is designated mostly for civic purposes and community facilities uses. We've also got an SDLIV, so this is a special district, but it's light industrial village. So it's kind of a combination of light industrial and some residential to create more of kind of a workforce village where people can work and live within the same area. And then you have your like true industrial districts. So these are pretty much brought forward from your existing ordinance. So we have restricted industrial and then heavy industrial. And then lastly, we have overlay districts. So your historic district overlay, which is pretty much brought forward from your existing ordinance. Same with floodplain. I know there were some changes recently to that. Airport overlay is pretty much brought forward from what you currently have. And then one new one that we introduced is a rural conservation overlay. So the idea is kind of a conservation subdivision where you may have more cluster development and then open areas that are left undeveloped. So it requires a mix of the districts that I mentioned earlier. Article 4 is kind of like the heart of this document. So this is where all of your standards are for each of the districts that I just went through. So it's kind of a quick reference guide. Each district has about 10 to 12 or so pages with references to other places in the document, but this is where developers ideally should be able to open up what we call a multi-page table for a specific district that they're interested in and know exactly what they can do in that district. So each of these multi-page tables covers your lot standards, setbacks, facade standards, Private frontage types, I'll get into all of these things, but you can find all of these here. So kind of just running through one of the multi-page tables, you can see how they're laid out. So they start off with a description of the district and then a rendering. And then this is where you can find the density for that district, lot occupation, so lot width, lot area, which typically is not regulated in these. Lot width is massively important for this code because that kind of regulates the place. So people understand a place from the street usually, and you can't really tell easily how, like what the size of a lot is, but you can tell how wide or how narrow it is. So that's where we, focus a lot of our standards is lot width. It also makes a place more or less walkable. You can also find setbacks here, private frontage types, which ones are allowed, which ones are not. Same with the building types, all your architectural standards. When we say architectural standards too, these are pretty light. It's more so just glazing. So how many windows should be on the facade, some building materials, no blank walls, things like that. You're not really getting into architectural styles. It's just like pretty simple architectural standards. Roof pitch, we also talk about that. And then we get into accessory building materials. There's a quick reference to the uses table because that's a whole other thing. Parking standards, where the parking can go in that district, loading and access standards. These are all quick references, and then they're discussed more in their own articles.
So and I mentioned that the district density standards are referenced just because everybody's always interested in seeing them at the very beginning of the multi-page tables. And it's done by gross site area is the measuring point. And it's based on how much gross site area of the district there is, and so it changes from district to district, so that the density of each district varies because it's the whole idea of context-based zoning is that it is contextual to the sort of place you're trying to create. We have a concept that we talk about in the document pretty extensively, actually, which is a lot layer, and it basically describes where on what part of a certain lot certain uses or certain things can go, and one of the things that's things like where does the loading dock go? Well, it goes in the back, that sort of thing. The concept itself of lot layers is that the front setback is the first layer. Then you have a second layer that runs 20 feet behind the first layer. And then from the back of the second layer to the rest of the back of the lot is the third layer. And it's just an easy shorthanded way to refer to each of those areas without having to describe them with a paragraph of text, saying what I just basically said in shorthand, where you'd have to write it all out. So that's the idea of the lot layer.
As I mentioned earlier, this is a hybrid code, so there's some form-based standards. Being form-based partially, the frontage matters a lot. So again, how people experience a place is they're standing on a street and they're looking at a building. So we have a bunch of different frontage types that are private frontage types, and they're going to be contextual based on the district that you're in. So these are all of the ones that you have in the document, but they're going to be allowed in different districts depending on what they are. So a common yard you're not typically going to find in like your CD5 downtown, but you would find a shop front in CD5. From the opposite of that, you wouldn't typically find a shop front in like a CD3L because that's single family residential. Just to give you an example. Article 8 is buildings and structures. So this is where all those building types that I mentioned earlier are described, similar to the private frontage types. There's a lot of different building types that you can use depending on what district you're in, but each one has a model to show what they look like, a description, and then some might have additional standards on top of those, but they're pretty light again. And they also reference what private frontage works with that building type. Uses, again, because this is a hybrid zoning ordinance, you have to regulate use. So there's 3 different use tables in your document. There's principal, which is the main use, accessory, and temporary. So you've got quite a few tables here, but it should be pretty easy to navigate. So you have your districts at the top and your use on the side, and you just line them up and you can tell what use is permitted. So there's different permissions. There's just permitted by right, flat out, you can do it. Permitted with conditions, which is not a conditional use permit, it's just permitted with conditions. So kind of like y'all been talking about tonight. You can do this thing if you do these things on top of that. And then there is permitted by conditional use permit, which would go to BZA. There's a not permitted, an EPD, so all the previous existing plans that have been approved, that's just per their plan, and then just not regulated.
There are also street sections for a number of different street types. The most critical part of the street sections is actually the public frontage piece of it. That's the most important in my mind anyway. A lot of traffic engineers would argue with me because they'd say the width of the lanes is the most important, but these are laid out with all the metrics for each type. And again, there's certain, actually all of the street types are allowed in all the districts the way they're done. So that's, there are also some provisions for the cross-section of a typical alley. There are block perimeter standards. Block perimeter is really important because the bigger the blocks get, the less walkable a place becomes. And so the block perimeter measurements are super important. Access management standards and different bikeway types that are appropriate for each of the various thoroughfare types. It's also a parking table. There are provisions in the text for parking, possible parking reductions, for shared parking, the vehicular space dimensions, parking areas. Parking area in this document is the parking places that are own a lot that has another principal use, as opposed to an accessory use, essentially. A parking lot is actually the principal use of that lot. So it's can be either a city lot or a commercial lot or whatever. There are provisions that talk about where drive-throughs and drive-ins can go, how many stacking spaces are required on those, bicycle parking accommodations, where the loading space goes, and where dumpsters and that sort of thing go. And they go in certain layers. Then they're, just like all the other elements of the code, there are different civic spaces, and that's a nice word for open spaces. All civic spaces are open spaces, but all open spaces are not civic spaces. But they are based on a range of contexts. Natural area being pretty much usable anywhere. Plazas are only going to be applicable in a more urbanized area because it's mostly a field of concrete or a field of pavers, and it's just a more urban civic type. The ones listed there down the side are what are in the code. And you even have a dog park. I'm not sure we've done a dog park before. We've thought about it. I'm a dog nut, she's a dog nut, and that's like a donut, a dog nut. But then, somebody brought up there ought to be dog park in here, and we addressed that, and glad we got a dog park. landscape article is Article 13. There's a requirement for a minimum landscape surface area in each of the districts. There's provisions about the overall required plantings, what native plant species are appropriate to use, the public frontage, again, the part of the thoroughfare that's there between the private lot line and the curb, what sorts of public tree shapes can go there. We don't specify I don't think we specify the species so much there, but it's the shapes, and what sizes of trees need to be planted when they're planted and where they go. We created a scenic street buffer, which is kind of there's some interest in it that we heard all about the Surrett, and then it continued to be something that interested people, where on these identified particular stretches of road, there are scenic buffer requirements for them, and they're in a table there. I'll say that I know nobody likes to be compared to another nearby city, but I'll just go ahead and say Franklin has these around a lot of its major roads, and it really holds a more rural feel if you can hang on to those, and there's something next to the pavement other than a building. So a handy thing. There are other types of buffers that are required in the document, buffers that go between different lots or different building sites or uses, some that go between different districts or a whole project, so that it has a buffer around the perimeter. It goes into buffer opacity, and locating and maintaining them, and kind of what happens with retaining walls as well. These are different lighting types that can be used in parking lots of commercial areas or on in the public frontage of the streets. And they're done by shape. It's not done by like super specific. It's just like a general shape. One that's shaped like this is a much more rural thing than one that has a globe on the top of it. And so that's, again, still trying to create a place. Got a sign article that gives you an incredible array of possibilities. They do get, again, certain signs are appropriate in certain places. And so they vary also by context and by character district. There are provisions that we didn't do. We may have made it a little bit easier to see the provisions in it rather than it being really dense text so much, but Article 17 being utilities and telecommunication, we are not the experts that some other people are in telecommunications. And then Article 18 being the natural resources article that has steep slopes protection and tree protection, erosion and sedimentation control, and stormwater management. We spent a good bit of time trying to make the administrative provisions and the procedural provisions just a little bit easier to they're reorganized some. We haven't changed what's got to be done, but just they were really dense and just on first read they were hard to really follow for somebody. So we tried to spend some time cleaning those up. And then the definitions. When you have a character-based code or a form-based code or a hybrid code, there are a lot of terms that are typical in conventional zoning, the older zoning, versus the form-based zoning. So you end up having to end up with a definitions article that has some of both in it, and actually sometimes has to call out. The word frontage in a lot of city codes means how far is it from one side of a lot to another. That's not what we mean when we say it. We're talking about the private frontage and the public frontage are the frontages. And so all of that has to be brought together and made clear when you're doing a hybrid code like this. And the zoning map is quite colorful and nice to look at, but I'm not the expert on that. We got a lot of input from, we did an early draft of it, and we got a lot of input from staff on it, particularly and staff, not this staff, but any planning staff. We'll give them sort of like, here's kind of a big picture of how we think it ought to look. Right on the edges on districts, right between certain districts, there's always going to be that parcel right there. It's already got a business on it, and you don't know that until you dig down, or they already know it off the top of their head. So, so that's the zoning map, and I think that is the last slide. We so hope y'all spent a lot of time mulling over the document. Is everybody nodding?
So, yeah, so I think, what was it, 2 weeks ago we got the updated? 3 weeks ago?
Okay.
I know me personally, I went through every single page when we first got it. So I had quite a few comments. I know there was a bunch of people that had comments. Full transparency, I'm actually still reviewing this latest copy. But I think that we've come a long way from where we started, for sure. I'm certainly excited about it moving towards adoption and us finally having something that's updated. I think it's been a long time coming that it's occurred. I don't necessarily have comments centered around like nitty-gritty details of the document itself,
right.
But high level. Am I okay to start asking questions?
Yeah.
Okay. High level questions I have are, so it's my understanding that once we adopt this, ultimately what we're doing is we're establishing zoning districts on properties that we hope what happens is two things. One, they're either following the zoning that's established there by issuing a site plan. And so a site plan comes to us and we approve it. And then if they want to pursue any other zoning, they're not pursuing a master plan document that we have previously called a PMDP that rezones the property. They're asking for a straight rezone of that property.
One little thing, and when the site plan that they bring to you is actually a PMDP.
Yes.
And so once that happens, then it follows the same process as the PMD FMDP did, just like y'all been talking about tonight. So that's the.
So the zoning map that's been drawn out has a number of existing planned developments, and
Correct.
so would the end result of that be an updated zoning map?
They stay just like they are.
Okay.
That is the
Yes.
zoning that they were entitled to.
But if someone else comes along, does this, and I guess a better way of asking this, does this end the planned development?
It does.
Okay.
Except for the ones that are already on the ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
And
Which makes sense, because I mean, ultimately, what we've gone through, what we've gone from is a very vague and high-level document to a very detailed document, and we're wanting everyone to follow that document. And so, essentially, from that perspective, a plan development is not necessary because they have all the guidance laid out in front of them to meet or adhere to.
That's exactly right.
The zoning ordinance.
Exactly.
So that was where my question came from. We're no longer asking, yes, I know there is a plan development, like there's a site plan associated with the plan itself.
Yeah.
But we're essentially, if we rezone a property, we're essentially rezoning it from one zoning district to another straight zoning district.
Right. And not a PD.
Okay. That makes sense. Does that make sense?
You'll find, I think, that it'll make all of your meetings and all of the developers' headaches pretty much go out the window because they know what they need
Yes.
to do, and y'all know what they need to do.
Yes.
and you won't have to be talking about, Brian said it tonight, so many of the things that they were having to ask for exceptions on tonight, they're just answered.
Yes.
And so that's what we hope.
So my next question is obviously before we started this process, we went through a very lengthy comprehensive plan, creation and development and adopting it. And not only did we adopt it, but the council adopted it, which was the first time in I don't know how many years that had occurred. In the event that the zoning map does not match the comp plan, what does that look like?
Okay, so there's not a zoning map per se in the comp plan, but there's a future land use map. The future land use map is supposed to guide those decisions.
Yes.
We tried so hard to always comply with the comp plan.
Yeah.
That's what we think a comp plan's for.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of the southern states, I won't just say Tennessee, we came from South Carolina this morning, Alabama's like this. There's not this hard and fast, you've got to do what the comp plan says.
Understand.
Enforce. I mean, the case law just doesn't read that way.
Yeah.
Up in New England, by golly, you got to follow that comp plan.
Yeah.
So
I'm just trying, the reason why I'm asking this question, because I'm just trying to prepare this body and council for folks that are going to be coming forward stating, hey, this is what the comp plan states. This is the zoning I want to pursue. And so I can very much see, trust me, I've reviewed the map. I can see that we've tried to follow it very closely.
Right.
But there are going to be times where someone says, this is what the comp plan says, this is what I want to pursue. And so we just need to be prepared.
So it's, and they're not entitled to have zoning based on that comp plan. It's just, they're just not. It's a long-range plan. You know,
Yes.
how long has it been since it's been in effect? It's supposed to be a guide for land decisions. So that's.
One of the things that I've at least mentioned is that I'm interested in doing another comp plan amendment once we have gotten through this process, to take and restudy our comprehensive plan, especially with respect to the map, because I feel like what we got from the previous version of it was a very vague document that, I mean, anybody can look at the comp plan map right now and interpret that whatever map change we make is in conformance with the zone, with the character district areas in the character areas in the comprehensive plan, because it is so vague. We'd like to tighten that up a little bit so that, I mean, we still have the ability to make some interpretations going forward, but, you know, there's not even a mention of an industrial character area in the comprehensive plan. It's, you know, you have your few different, you know, general urban, kind of has to encompass commercial and industrial. Yeah. So, like, you just don't have enough, I think, to work with. And so we're looking at, once we get through this process, to at least take a look at that, if not more, within the document as well.
That comp plan, it was far thinking in some respects. There used to be not a comp plan ever that talked about character areas. About the time when it was being written, people started thinking about the character areas. They had already thought about doing form-based codes and character at the district level, and so they started changing some. But I mean, there are a couple of little gaps even in your comp plan right now that we had to just mentally struggle with and resolve.
Yeah.
So it could definitely use some cleaning up.
Would this been a lot easier 25 years ago?
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Would this process been a lot easier 25 years ago?
This process?
Process of rewriting the code?
Yeah.
Oh, It should have been done before 25 years ago. It should have happened periodically along the way. Though we run into some codes that were written in the 1920s.
When was our previous code adopted?
The one we use right now, it was 96.
Okay.
But we have them all the way back to the 50s.
Okay. So in that time, since 96, there's been, what, at least 2 comp plans created?
Yes.
Yeah, it should have been, yeah.
Okay.
And sort of all the time, land use regulation and planning concepts have evolved. They've evolved massively.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly over the last 30 years.
Yeah. Well, I would argue even more so in the last 10 years. Just with the implementation of other engineering-related items that have come about.
Anna just told me I'd be remiss if I didn't say we also do comp plans. That's why we were in Spartanburg this morning on an interview for their comp plan.
Yeah. The only other question I have is related to the code itself. So right now, I know when someone brings a document to us, we have the ability, like the planning commission has the ability to grant certain variances, exceptions, things like that. Is that still the case? Or is it, if you don't meet it, you have to go to the BZA first? Like, is this, like, I guess, are there going to be additional BZA requests?
We tried very hard to keep it very similar to what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's language in the document that allows us as a body to perform those functions.
Yes, so
Okay.
there's certain things, it's clear what things go to BZA, and it's clear what things come to this board and inevitably city
Okay.
council in some cases. And it's broken out into certain types of plans. Some will just require FMDP level drawings, like a site plan level. Some will require the concept PMDP level drawing with that follow-up. So that doesn't change that much, but we have changed what things require what, and it's based on uses
Okay.
and size of those uses and things like that.
Okay.
So, but there is still, you can still amend, like you can still do exceptions to that process. We've kept that language in there
Okay.
for these boards.
As we did state earlier, though, we would love to see that amount of exceptions
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
go way down.
very
Well, it
low.
should.
So you keep those exceptions for when exceptions should be considered, right?
A
You know,
unique case.
Yes.
in cases where we're looking at exceptions, I mean, it seems almost every single application
Yes.
needs an exception for architecture, you know, sometimes building heights, you know, a bunch of different things. And, you know, you should save your exceptions for when something is meaningful and
Yes.
why you should grant those
I agree.
exceptions.
And I think we even kept it more limited to what those exceptions could be. Like, we kept alternative for some landscaping things because buffer yards are something that are so reliant on the site.
Yes.
Some bulk regulations, but like architecture, we really limited what you could ask for, if anything, deviating from code.
Now, we also did include some provision for administrative decisions
Yes.
on a certain level of exception. I think
Yes.
it was 10%, 10 to 20%
I think
maybe,
that's right, yeah.
of a provision
Cool.
that administratively staff can be able to just go ahead and, you know, deal with.
Does that include the accessory structures?
We have specifically put in accessory structure language in each zoning district saying what materials are allowed and what ones are not.
Yeah.
Which would allow for administrative approval and it not come to
It
this
would,
body?
it would not have to come to this board anymore if it's approved, because we would allow the materials we are typically seeing.
Cool.
Yes.
Awesome. I'll be quiet for a second. See y'all.
Okay.
Next question.
Those are all good questions.
I have a couple questions and comments, and I was taking notes on my phone while you were talking, so I promise I wasn't texting. But I'm a real estate attorney, so I regularly have to skim through zoning codes, and luckily I don't have to read them word for word, except for the part that actually affects my client. But first, I just want to say I thought this was very well organized. I mean, as somebody who has to skim through and find things, it was very easy to find what district it is. I loved the one pager or I forgot what you called it.
Multi-pagers.
The multi-pager, that was awesome. And I feel like I have not seen that frequently. And I thought that was a really cool feature. So first I just want to say, I thought it was organized very well. A couple questions. So one, I know some zoning codes, the districts like step up. So you have like the lowest density and then you have the next lowest density and so on. And if the lowest density is 1 and then it goes to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, each upper density can do what the lower's allowed.
Right.
That is not the case here though, right?
It's not, no, it's not the cumulative kind of zoning. That was kind of a feature of a lot of the older codes for sure. Now, there's nothing that says you can't do it that way, but it's a little bit more nuanced because when you just have, well, you can do everything that you could have done if you were in 4, so you can do that and some other things in 5. That it's not a real nuanced way to get what you want where. And so it's more kind of what makes sense going there. However, the entire use table started out with the uses that were allowed in each district in the existing code. It did evolve some as we were going. So.
Got it. Okay.
The big reason for that is it's based on trying to create that character along the street front. If you have, say, if it's a single family type use, but if you have very large lot and a bunch of small lots and then a big lot and, some interrupting type things that sort of break up how that character is created, then you sort of mess with how the feel of that street is and walking by versus if you try to limit that to whatever is allowed in the district.
Right.
Then you're kind of keeping it somewhat more standardized, and it's going to feel a lot more the same as you go along the street versus if you're, those big lots have the home way set back, right? Because they're big, and they typically do put their home way far back. So then you have a bunch of homes with their house up close to the street, and then you step way back, and then you come back up, and then, so that's one of the reasons for you trying to create that character along the street.
So use ends up being a part of the equation of character, but it's certainly not like the biggest thing, like all the way back to the Euclid case. It's just not Euclid anymore. So.
Great. Thank you. And then I also wanted to ask, vested rights is an issue that I see a lot. So under this code, is the right vested basically when the developer gets a permit or a building permit, or can they get it beforehand?
I'm so foggy. I've got South Carolina law in my mind, and I've got Tennessee law in my mind, and Alabama's too. I think that it's when somebody gets an approval. It's whether it's a permit.
The code say it? Like, are we?
It tracks the state statute. I mean, it's
That was a big addition that was put in here to make sure it discusses vested rights and the timelines for that and how they work. It's towards the beginning of this code. It's like.
And is it like a site plan with like sufficient detail, or is it an actual building?
It was got to be a complete site plan.
It's
got to be a complete approved site plan.
Substantially compliant with code and been approved by the required boards. So the building permit doesn't create the best.
Right.
I think there's two kind of vesting. So it's like you get your approval, and there's a timeline for that in which you need to do something.
Right.
Or that expires. And then once you get a building permit, start building something, that gets much longer. I think that's like a 10, 15 year.
Intent to build.
Sure.
And that's a state. We follow the state law for those allowances.
Awesome. Okay, and then last one, and I think he asked this, but I didn't totally follow your answer. So if a developer has already submitted a preliminary plan and it's been approved, and then they would have to go back, but then we pass this ordinance, I guess what happens to their process? Do they just start over?
I think the real key to me is if the city's already said that's a complete application and it's accepted. Hadn't been approved yet, but it's complete and has been accepted for submission. I think it's going to allow you to stay with your old process, okay? And it probably would also let the applicant actually choose to say, no, I'm going to pull that one. I want to go ahead and go under the new code. We see people a lot deciding they want to go under the new code because it's so clear what's got to be done.
They would have to fully pull their, either, how would that work from a?
You're subject to the current rules and regulations when your plan was submitted
and accepted.
and accepted.
Okay.
We would then review the plan in accordance with the current set of regulations that are there. We did, in the EPD standards, we did go ahead and put in some things that would allow folks to, like he was saying, voluntarily choose to do something, along the newer regulation lines, such as, what's an example of what?
Well, we put some more clear accessory building things
Yeah.
in there, because we knew that was so unclear in the old code. Like, we tried to set it up so that it would be a positive, that they had some options with that, but whatever they got approved with that previous plan, they get to continue with that.
Solar panels is an example. We don't have solar panels called out in the current zoning ordinance, right? If someone wants to be able to go ahead and put solar panels on their house or on their lot somewhere, that could be an option, and if they want to be able to follow the new code and do that, then that would be something that they can go ahead and do as part of that.
My last question was actually going to involve that. I wasn't going to call out solar panels specifically. Lawyer a little bit, but if there is a newer technology, battery storage, solar panels, anything like that, that doesn't clearly fit in the use, what would we do? And were you saying that there is a use that those types of technologies would fit in, or there's not?
So we addressed solar panels as a specific type of accessory use, I
Yeah,
believe.
accessory
It's in your accessory use table.
So
that
it could
would
not be the primary use?
It would be accessory to a primary use currently. I don't think we addressed it as a primary
I don't remember
sole
that.
I don't think we
sole
remember
use
that
on the
either.
property. I'm not.
So you can graze your cows
I'd have to
under
go
it.
back and look for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it is just an accessory use. to
But the answer to the question of what about technology we don't know about, that's just amend your zoning code when it happens. Some of the codes that are being written right now are the first ones that have ever talked about solar panels.
Right.
Now, if that's something this board is interested in exploring, anything like that, that's what we can talk about in May when we have further discussion on these, if that's something you guys want to look at.
Was it intentional that we made those things only accessory? I guess if somebody bought a 40-acre parcel and wanted to put anything, that battery storage, solar, anything like that, are we intending that they can only do that if they have another use?
I think it was intentional, but that's not the only way it can be done.
It's
It was
not the only way, but I do want to be careful on how much we do go with something like solar panels, for example, can tend to get people a little riled up if because of how they look. If you're putting just a bunch of panels on a stand somewhere and that's what you see, it's not a great aesthetic look, right? So you try to do that in a manner that's aesthetically pleasing. We did put in rules and regulations that you would have to do some screening around said solar panels. So, it's a use permitted with conditions, and those conditions, one of them again is some screening. Right now, we're treating, if someone came in and said, hey, I want to do solar panels, it's kind of like an accessory structure, if you will. And so we would try to regulate it based on that. But now this would give us a better ability to do, so the screening part of it as well. So.
And sorry, last question. If there's a use that is truly like just doesn't fit in any of the current uses, is there anything we could do other than amend the zoning code or to?
One that is allowed and it shouldn't be allowed?
No, just, I mean, any use that doesn't clearly fit within the definitions of permitted uses that you have now. Like if we're just missing one, like if
Well,
somebody wants to do something and it doesn't.
Right now, any use that's not regulated some way or the other is prohibited.
Okay.
So, one just point I need to make, during the whole public input process, there was a huge emphasis on trying to save farmland and vistas and all that stuff. And sort of a solar field is, or a solar farm is kind of the flip side of that. I'm all for solar energy, but there were a lot of people who were just crazy about keeping the open spaces open. So I'm just reporting.
I'll stay silent on that.
And I'd like to address the use question that you had, kind of add on to that. So we actually added uses to this chart from our current chart. We tried to think of things that had come up that we kind of had a question mark over the last few years and be like, okay, we've kind of had to shoehorn this into this. Like gyms was a big one that wasn't super clear in our current code where a gym should go. And so we've always kind of had to these uses are broad for a reason. And so we added a number of uses to this new code that we didn't even have in our old one to try and make sure we don't cut out a very reasonable use. And when you look at Article 9, where it has all the charts showing what uses are allowed, right after that is the conditions that would go with that. And so I feel like now that that's all in one section, that will help a lot for understanding. But anytime you see those permitted, the PC or CUP, like go and look at those
Like
conditions.
right after the tables.
Yeah, and that's
They start right after those tables.
Yeah, right after the tables, so you can see the conditions that we worked through to try and make sure that those were taken care of in certain districts.
Maybe a silly question, but the effective date, so that will be after we approve it and then after city council approves it?
Correct.
Yeah, so we will be providing a recommendation to council, and then council approves it, and once council approves it, that is the effective date.
Yeah.
And that's gonna take council at least,
2.5 months minimum.
minimum, because
Yes.
it'll have to go through multiple readings, its own public hearing, everything like that.
Does it go through a public hearing here too?
Yes.
We did already advertise for a public hearing on the 18th of next month,
Okay.
which is your regular meeting date for next month. It's moved up a week because of Memorial Day. So just remember that if you didn't have that in your calendars, to bump that up. Normally, our meetings are the first and fourth Mondays, but in this case, because of Memorial Day, it's gonna come on the 18th. At that meeting, it's up to this body. If you're ready to vote on it and recommend, you can. We're gonna, answer any types of questions that you may have. In the meantime, if you had specific thoughts and/or changes that you see that you would like to make with this, you can either email us the questions or ask them in the next meeting, so that we can kind of come prepared to, to make those adjustments with the following meeting. But, we're happy to entertain whatever questions, comments, concerns that you have, and we'll take whatever you've got and discuss it, try to come up with the right changes that seem to be appropriate. I know one of the ones that Mayor Brown emailed tonight, a week ago or so, after I emailed everyone saying, hey, just send us your questions and comments, she had responded with, I really think that we ought to make sure that car washes are only allowed in the industrial districts, right? So that's a very specific type of comment that, you know, I don't know if this board would want to consider that type of change or not. We didn't carry that change forward in that manner because it's not how it's currently allowed in the zoning ordinance. Although we did make changes that are not part of the current zoning ordinance, most of the use allowance type stuff we carried forward as they were, unless it just didn't make sense. But I mean, that's a question that this body may want to consider as part of changes that, you know, and I know that has something more to do with, I think car washes aren't tax generators in some sort of fashion, or I'm not sure exactly. Keeping them out of a commercial district area where, you know, and there's more to it than just that, but, you know, also the impact on water and other businesses in the area.
And we don't really know what kind of private frontage type that is.
Yeah.
And we'll keep a log of all those changes, so that we have it documented and you guys have that documented whenever you get ready to vote, that you know what was all discussed here and what was actually changed and how it was changed in the document, so it's very clear.
I think you could also consider, I'm not supposed to tell you all this because that's not the function I have here, but several cities, like the Planning Commission may have like 3 points that they're just like really stuck on. And I know that you can just recommend it up subject to those 3 conditions being changed. And that's another thing you can do, so.
I think a couple other of the comments that Mayor Brown had said were that mixed use doesn't work everywhere. Some neighborhoods will just be neighborhoods as businesses don't fit / can't thrive, which I think that's addressed in the code. She says, I want to make sure that there's a path that entices custom builders and developers to be able to build those neighborhoods. So different infrastructure / phasing requirements for that kind of quality. And then the third one was the same as above for independent / local businesses and industries versus national builders. So again, I think those types of comments are much more broad, you know, and how those are addressed. I think they are addressed as we have created this code.
They're just not addressed by saying no national builders.
Right. We can't necessarily say, hey, you as a national builder can't come to our city because, you know, of you being a national builder. That would be illegal, I think. But as we try to encourage a wide range of types of builders, custom, you know, national, you know, everything in between. Hopefully that will be guided by the way that we've set up for the form of buildings to look and the regulations that are going along with that. And that governs a lot better than just, hey, are you a national, or hey, are you a custom, or hey, are you this or that. And then, of course, you know, her fourth one was that one about the car washes. So that's a much more specific one change. Hey, is that an allowed use in the industrial district, or is that an allowed use in the commercial district, or, you know, so we looked at all of those types of uses as we got through the code, but I mean, we're still just a small staff. We got our code consultants here. Those are considerations that we may not have made on every single thing, on every little minute thing. But I can tell you this, we went through this code, very minute detail. These guys are probably sick of seeing us or hearing from us.
I'm never sick of seeing you guys. I will say that this code for this city was vetted more than any other code we've dealt with by these two guys. And they're smart. They know what's going on. And we had a lot of revisions.
Yeah.
Good.
How much did they pay you to say that?
They're not paying me a dime. They're surprised I'm saying it probably.
Not that surprised.
We definitely got our money's worth on revisions.
Okay. We're coming up on 8 o'clock, so if there's other major comments or questions, obviously, please state them at this time. But we'll have another opportunity to discuss this at work session.
It'll be on the 4th in a
Yeah.
week. We would anticipate we'll have it as an item on the agenda
Okay.
for open discussion and feedback and specific comments, anything.
Now, Anna and Bill will not be here at that particular meeting. They both got prior commitments. But we will take whatever discussion we have, generate some comments that we can send back to them, or at least discuss with them. We've already got the draft code in hand, so whatever changes we're making at this point, Jillian and I will probably be making those.
Cool.
But at least we can sort of inform them of what the issues are. Of course, we're inviting them to be part of the process as we go all the way through the city council adoption. So we want them present to be able to help us answer these questions. They know it probably better still than we do, even though we've looked at it very, very closely, just because they deal with this type of thing.
I think y'all know your code better than we do.
Well, thank y'all for y'all's
Certainly.
time tonight, and thank you for your
Thank you.
patience, allowing us to get through our agenda.
Certainly.
So, yeah, I appreciate the feedback, and I appreciate the presentation as well.
Thank you, guys.
Anything else? A motion to adjourn.